الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد كرمنا بني آدم. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting, our a'mal. We approach the middle of the month of Ramadan. It really did go so quickly, and it seems like before we know it, it'll be over. I pray that before this month is over, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us, and there's nothing that He has against us that He would be punishing us for as we recite. Especially in the last 10 nights, it is recommended to recite this dua: أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. I seek refuge to your honorable face, and that is the rahmah and the karama and the maghfirah. These are the attributes we are seeking refuge to from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the month of Ramadan passes, or even this night is over, and there is any sin or any mistake that He is going to punish us on the Day of Judgment. The discussion that we are having tonight, inshallah, on a continuation on the rights in the general theme of zuhd. We have been discussing in the last 2 nights, or the 2 nights prior to tonight, we discussed some rights, the rights of women in general, specifically wives and mothers, the rights of children, which reflects also what parents need from their children, which in fact the children have to do towards their parents, which is istighfar and sadaqat, especially after they depart this world. And it is a right that remains upon us. In fact, we have a hadith that says someone could be dutiful during the life of his parents, and when they depart, he becomes undutiful. And someone could be undutiful, when they depart, he becomes dutiful. يكون بارا ويكتب عاقا. And what does change this situation? It is basically if he starts doing sadaqat for them, istighfar for them, then even if he was not bar, he would be written bar. And the opposite applies. If he was doing good things, out of a sudden after their departure he doesn't do those things for them, then he would not be written as bar, and wal-ayadu billah, he would be written undutiful. Tonight, we want to go a little more general in terms of the rights and go over the rights of our fellow humans, whether they're neighbors, co-workers, colleagues, classmates, humans around us, and humanity in general. When we discuss this concept, in fact, we will find that Islam is the richest in terms of any legal system, whether it's religious-based or secular. The richest literature in terms of rights is indeed Islam, and it was the earliest to introduce these rights, including Anbiya, but previous Anbiya and prophets may have given hints, but not given the details. Whereas in Islam, we have details on the rights of everyone around us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. In Surah Al-Isra, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. We have honored the children of Adam, and we carried them in the ocean and in the land and in the ocean. We carried them, حَمَلْنَاهُمْ. We were reciting earlier where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He made subdue to us the animals that we ride on. وَالْخَيْلَ وَالْبِغَالَ وَالْحَمِيرَ وَزِينَ. We carry, you ride over these animals. However, He says, وَيَخْلُقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And He will create what you do not know at the time that the Quran is revealed and today. An example of that could be cars and airplanes. You might say, but humans made it. Who taught the human to make anything? عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. He taught the insan. He taught the human. And therefore, everything that humans reach in terms of technology is, in fact, the creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَخْلُقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And this is one example. There are many other examples that we do not know today. There might be means of traveling that we are unaware of today. And in some years or centuries or decades from here, there will be new mediums of transportation where we're unaware of. This is part of the honoring of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We honored them. And we gave them priority over many of what we have created. حَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. We made even the other living things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, made it subdue to us and permissible for us. And that brings me to a sidetracking from this. When we have living things like sheep or cows or other living things that we're allowed to eat, it's a living thing, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to slaughter it in His name and we can consume it. You see, that's the difference between the concept of the vegetarian and vegan that certain people have and Islam. Islam says these things are by principle haram. By principle you cannot. But in His name, you slaughter it, you can consume it. That's the difference between halal and haram, if you want to know. Just a side track, as we say, and that's the spiritual difference, besides the physical differences that obviously the non-halal meat has so many harms and so on. But besides that, why is it that even if you do the exact same thing without the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is a living thing, it's only allowed to be, the life to be taken in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ. We gave them a priority. This is the children of Adam. Therefore, the principle in treating human beings around us in Islam is to honor people. That everyone is valuable. That everyone has a status and value, and we are not to judge anyone, and no one is to think that they are better than anybody. Absolutely no one has the right to think that they are better than others. I am religious, therefore I'm better. No, I don't know. Maybe they're more religious than me. Maybe they're more spiritual than me. I am educated, therefore I'm from a higher class. Maybe they're way better than me. Even in terms of literacy, I have a degree. Maybe they have understood the world around them much deeper than what I understand. I don't know. Perhaps the people that you look at and you might think, okay, look at this guy, he doesn't pay too much attention to his salat or ibadah. Maybe if he sits in a private gathering, he does not speak against anybody and backbite anyone. Yet when we sit in our private gatherings, we're speaking about him as well. Think about it. You know, a person gets to our gathering and we think we're better. As soon as he leaves, we start talking about him. Maybe he's the type that he would sit in many gatherings and he would never speak about anybody. How do I consider myself better? Islam teaches us not to ever think that we are better than anyone. And it teaches us that everyone is honorable. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has honored all, and therefore everyone has rights, and we have to fulfill their rights. This is the principle in treating others in Islam. This is the primary method of dealing with others. That the main thing is honor everybody. Everybody is good. Everybody might be better than me. I am not saying that we become pluralist in our faith. I think the fasting is not helping. And we become, everybody the same religion. I'm not suggesting any of that. But we are not to judge. We have to know that we are on the right path. Otherwise, we would be asked. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, we will reflect on the fact that when He says, وَلَا تَقْفُ in Surah Al-Isra, perhaps tomorrow night we will have this ayah, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Do not go by assumptions. You need to have knowledge. Do not act. Do not do anything or say anything based on lack of knowledge. Be informed. If you don't have the information, ask and seek the knowledge. And He says He has given you, today we recited the ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يُخْرِجُكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ or أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. He brought you out of the womb of your mothers knowing nothing. And He gave you sama. And He gave you the hearing and the vision and the intellect. وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ, so that you may learn and be thankful to Him. In that ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not go by assumptions. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Don't act by assumptions. Don't act by lack of knowledge. You need to find the answers. And on the day of judgment, you will be asked about those three things that you were given to gain knowledge. We knew nothing, but He gave me the hearing. He gave me the vision. And He gave me the intellect, the fu'ad, to reflect with, so that I can gain knowledge. Do not misunderstand honoring everybody and everybody is good for religious pluralism. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is that I am not to judge. I don't know what goes in his mind or her mind. In the hadith, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If the creation knows, if the created, لو علم الخلق, how the Creator created other creation, no one would have ever blamed anybody. I don't know what he has or she has been exposed to, what level of intellect they have, understanding, environment, parents, friends, all of the influences. Above that, their mind and how it works, I don't know. Therefore, I am not to judge, and I cannot judge. This is the principle. We honor everybody, we respect everybody, and never think that we are better than anybody. This is what Islam teaches us. We see a Christian, or a Jew, or a Hindu, or a Buddhist, or whatever. Don't ever think that you are better. Nabiullah Musa ala nabina wa alihi wa alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, was asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to find a creation that is worthless below him. And he walked, and he searched, and eventually he came back, he said, I could not find it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him, had you brought anything or anyone, you would have gone down from the status that you have. It is your humbleness that made you who you are. In fact, we have another hadith that says it is his ta'fir, putting his cheeks on the soil, on the sand, ta'fir in his cheeks, putting his cheeks in the ta'fir is basically to put your face or in turab. If it is that character of his that made him the chosen one to be spoken to by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Humbleness. So the number one principle is humble yourself. Don't ever think that anyone is less important or less significant than you are. Be thankful for the guidance that God has given us, and honor everybody, respect everybody. The reason why I say that, my brothers and sisters, is that there are two ways of approaching rights. Before we get into the rights of my neighbor, the rights of my friends, the rights of my brother in Iman, the rights of my teacher, the right of the students, the rights of my boss, the president, the governor, we have all those, and you go and read Risalat al-Huquq lil-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, it has a series of rights of all these people. The rights of the mu'adhin, somebody who gives the adhan, he has rights, go and read it. The rights of the imam who recites the Salatul Jama'ah has rights. All of those people have rights. We need to learn these rights. But if you recall the last couple of nights, or 2 nights ago, and including last night, I spoke of the fact that the first thing that we need to know or we need to do in terms of other people's rights is to recognize their rights, recognize their status. Here, what I'm trying to do, my brothers and sisters, I'm trying to get us in the right state of mind, how we look at other people, because that would determine how we deal with them naturally, not out of legal obligation. What often happens is, in the West, or in the East, or anywhere, but in the West I say because, unfortunately, in many of the Islamic countries, many rights have been neglected. And in the East, you'll find that, in the West, you'll find that they have recognized more rights. I'll give you a quick example. In Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given rights to the neighbors. Rasulullah gave so many rights and kept on reminding the believers of neighbors that Amirul Mu'mineen said, we thought there will be a share of inheritance for neighbors in Islam. حَتَّى ظَنَنَّا أَنَّهُ يُورِثُ. This is how the Prophet kept on reminding the people. We have a hadith about the fact that when you come to build your home in your own land, your neighbor has a right. If you're going to affect his property by building a wall that's high that may take some of his sunlight, you're affecting his sunlight. He has a right, you need to seek his permission. Interestingly, to a degree, in the Western society, you'll find that if you're building a house that somehow is going to have an impact on your neighbor, you have to seek their permission. And sadly, in Muslim societies, that is not being adhered to, in most of the Muslim societies. However, how do they guarantee that these rights are adhered to? How do they guarantee that people are fulfilling the rights of those around them? Most of the time, it is the legal system and the repercussions. If you do not do certain things, there will be a court against you, a court order against you. There will be police involved or other authorities. You may have to pay fines and so on. Therefore, the way we are implementing that legal system and the rights of people around us is by force and by some sort of strong authority. They came and wrote constitutions of different governments, starting from the English one in the 13th century to the 19th or 20th century, in fact, where they started writing the human rights in the United Nations, and they put together human rights. Islam, way before any of that, introduced many, many human rights. Some of the best examples are through the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. He introduced many of those rights. One of the best documents, in fact, is the letter from him to Malik al-Ashtar when he appoints him as the governor of Egypt. You go and read that letter. We don't have time to go through it. In there, he gives him so many of those principles that establish the rights of humanity, the rights of human beings in general. Today, they write human rights. It was right there. However, today, how is it implemented? Human rights, we have it. And so much of it is beautiful. But how is it implemented? Does the United Nations have enough power to implement? Or does it have no bias to implement? Two questions that I'll leave it up to you to decide. Or some countries have the right of veto and they continuously do it, notoriously impacting the lives of innocent souls around the world. So many human rights, United Nations and so on, yet day in, day out, Muslims or innocent people in Burma are killed. The country is about, or their cities and their state is about to be completely changed. Demographically, completely changed. And nobody is doing anything or much. Yemen is bombed and under siege and children dying. Nothing is done about it. What is lacking? This is what I'm trying to get to, brothers and sisters. What is lacking is power to implement it. And therefore, with that power, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives reference to in Islam, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ in Quran, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُم بِبَعْضٍ. If it wasn't the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where people, some good ones, would stop the bad and evil ones, if that was not happening, every place of worship would have been destroyed. لَهُدِّمَتْ مَسَاجِدُ وَصَوَامِعُ. Masajid would have been destroyed. Synagogues, churches, and places of worship would have been destroyed. People have to protect them. But besides that power, what can we do here as individuals? This is what I'm trying to get to, my brothers and sisters. What I'm trying to reach is a state where we do not need force to implement others' rights. There is no need for some legal system and some serious repercussions, fines and jail and prosecution. There is no need for any of that for me to be dutiful to my neighbor, for me to be dutiful to people around me, for me to recognize that every human being is honorable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Islam. Anybody who thinks that Islam gives a license for anyone to kill anybody based on religion or anything besides a mu'tadi, Islam gives the right for Muslims to defend and fight the transgressors, the mu'tadi, people who are offensively attacking and fighting and killing innocent people. Besides that, there is no situation that Islam gives you a right to go out and fight anyone and kill anyone. Because the principle is everyone is honorable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we start implementing that in our eyes, if I start realizing that I am not better than anybody, not because of my race can I claim to be better than anyone, not my religion, not my gender, not age, nothing. Somebody much younger than me could be the wali, one of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why in the hadith we are told that some things are hidden in certain things. One of them is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أَخْفَى أَوْلِيَاءَهُ فِي عِبَادِهِ. He hid his friends amongst his people. The wali, those who are close to him, those who obey him, those who al-wali alladhi yatawalla. He follows the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger. Those people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hid them amongst his servants. Therefore, never underestimate anybody. You could be a wali from awliyaullah and you're looking down upon them. This is the reality. In fact, sometimes we may feel somehow that these people, you know, we're so serious about religious events, Islamic center, and so on. And some people are not so serious and they're seasonal. And somehow we feel that we are superior to them. And somehow we may even be offensive to them. My brothers and sisters, before the offensiveness, that feeling and thought that I am better than them, that we need to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from. In this month of Ramadan, seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never think that you're better. This man hardly comes to the center. This man doesn't pray. And we become like awliyaullah, we become like the ma'sumin, the infallible ones. We have no fault and nothing to improve in ourselves. Remember the hadith I've shared several times. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, he says, رِضَاكَ عَنْ نَفْسِكَ فَسَادُ عَقْلِكَ. To be pleased with yourself is the destruction of your aql, your intellect. Why? Because you've done ta'til now. You're not no longer reflecting on how can I improve myself. Why? Because I'm pleased, I'm good, I'm perfect. I'm not saying that. Please don't ever. For us to think that we are better means we are pleased with ourselves. In many literatures, we are given this beautiful analogy. In fact, in Farsi it was there, and I heard it in English. I'll try to remember it. When I say it, maybe you'll remind me. In Farsi, they say, "Dig bedig mige rut siyah." You know, the pot tells the other pot that you're black. I've heard the English version, but I can't remember it. Maybe somebody remembers and can help. We are full of error ourselves, and so much room for improvement in ourselves. We can never look at anyone and judge them and think we're better. We need to honor and respect everybody. If this becomes the principle, then it's easier to be dutiful to our neighbors. It's easier to be dutiful to everyone around us. If I look at my neighbor and think he might be better than me, if I fill my heart, and this is what I want to finish with. Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, he says to Malik al-Ashtar, he says, "Ash'ir qalbaka," let your heart feel the love of others, everyone around you, everybody. You might say Muslims, non-Muslims, anyone. In principle, we love all. We may not like or we may detest their belief, their action, their behavior, but we love all. He says because they're either a brother in faith or equal in humanity. Therefore, love them all. If this becomes the principle, to love all, to honor all, to respect all, to not ever think that I'm better than anyone, then it's easier, my brothers and sisters, to be dutiful to all those around us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to be humble creatures and humble servants amongst His servants. We ask Him to guide us to be dutiful to all those around us and to fulfill the rights of all the people who are around us. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين